What up, YouTube? Welcome back. We are here with another episode of Curated Topics, brought to you by Curated Sense LLC. How y'all been doing, man? I'm working on getting these out on Mondays. I had a hectic Monday. Got a little bit of bad news over the weekend, but it's all right. We're gonna push through. Not too much going on, but just, dealing with some little family stuff. That's all right. We're gonna make it through. I apologize for not being out on Monday. I'm getting it out as I can. I'm trying to be as consistent as possible, especially since that was one of my, advice in one of my last videos. So I'm here with y'all today. Candle of the evening. We got this right here. This is Blade and Bow. It is a bourbon whiskey out of Louisville, Kentucky. I actually got an opportunity to try this. It was pretty good. If you're gonna drink, please drink responsibly. Gotta say that. This whiskey was pretty good. It's a little bit strong, 91 proof, but it'll definitely put a little bit of hair on your chest. But it was actually really good. What's the scent we got today? Now, I've actually talked about this scent in one of my other videos already, but this scent here is the Gentleman. Had to do this up. This is actually going out to one of my customers. Shout out to him. It will be shipping out after this video. I'm gonna put it in the box and send it to you, brother. But this scent here this is probably my favorite of the cologne scents. It's one of the ones I get the most compliments on. I actually wear this cologne myself, and I wear it out and about, usually when I'm going out. I've worn it to the office a couple of times. I used to have a running joke amongst my old coworkers at my old job. They'd be like, man, he smells so good. It just lingers. And this scent, it really does. It smells very good. It's bold, but it's not like beat you down bold, pause. It's just, it lingers. It has a nice, very aromatic smell, very pungent. It is a great scent. So let's get into the description. This cologne scent is woodsy, aromatic, bold, enticing, and sophisticated with just a little hint of sweetness. It features ingredients like lavender, bergamot, black pepper, black vanilla, cloves, patchouli, and pear. My little nickname for it is, I call this that James Bond. This the old 007. Like you can walk up on shorty at the bar, say, hi, how you doing? Is this chair open? And before you know it, she is smelling you and all sorts of things. So check it out. You can check us out online at curatedsense.llc.com and check out our Instagram. It's at curated_sense_LLC. So let's go and get into the first topic. All right, first topic. I'm going to start it off with some music today. I'm kind of switching up the format a little bit. I'm going to start putting the music back towards the end, but with certain ones when I can tie it into, the motivational piece and what I want to talk about, I'm going to put it at the forefront. Give y'all a little, keep it mixed up for you. So I'm going to go album of the week, the new Larry June album. It's called Until Night Comes. Larry June, he puts out some real chill albums. Perfect for like driving. I love going out, especially when it's kind of late in the evening. Maybe the sun's about to go down, that sort of thing. I'm throwing on that Larry June album. I'm either going and I'm watching the sunset at the lake, or I'm driving to go take a walk throughout the woods somewhere or something like that. It really helps just make the vibe nice and chill, nice and relaxed. Love that sort of vibe, especially when I'm driving in the car. He makes some of the perfect driving music. He's right up there with cats like Currency, Wiz, those type of cats when it comes to making that music you can just vibe to. We not all lit all the time. We not partying all the time. Sometimes you got to have something you can just kind of be calm to, bob your head while you take a nice drive with some shades on. And this is the perfect album for that. If I had to rate it out of 10, I'd probably give it like 8.5. I really enjoyed this album. He actually had a feature on there with Wiz. That's a really good song. My favorite song is probably the Organic Free Range Chicken. It's kind of funny because the chorus, all he says is chicken, and it's hilarious, but it's a good song. Like I said, the vibes are right. The vibes are nice and chill. And it's just something you can kind of relax to. I had this question posed to me by one of my listeners. Why do I like music so much? Like, what made me want to talk about music within these videos? Well, first off, I grew up on it. I have a couple of family members who were musicians. I have a couple of friends who are musicians. I've been around music my entire life. My grandmother, my mom, they had extensive record collections, CD collections. I'm gonna age myself, but the tapes, when you had to flip from one side to the other, tape collections, all that. I actually remember I got in trouble because I used to like to play with the tapes. You know, you can pull the little tape out and you can re-spool it and all of that. And I definitely messed up a couple and got in trouble for that. But I've always been around music, always. Whether it's going to concerts, seeing people play live in clubs, nightclubs, all those sorts of things. I actually prefer going to concerts where instruments and things like that are involved. I've been to concerts from jazz musicians all the way to R&B. I've been to a couple country concerts. Country isn't my thing, all like that, but I have seen them live. I've been to some rock concerts, you name it. I've been to classical. So music has just always been a part of my life, and it's always been a part of who I am. I'm not really a musician. I played a few instruments when I was younger. I wasn't all that good, but that's okay. I know how to listen to music. I know how to appreciate music. And so that's part of why I like music so much. I'll never forget this. When I was in high school, we actually used to compete about music. Like, who could get the latest song first? Who had the most recent songs in their library? Who found what? And who put people onto it? And that has also shaped my relationship with music. Like, I love listening to, the latest new good song. I love being able to pick out the latest new good song. And all of those experiences help play into why I chose to talk about it. There was a point in my time in my life where, and this will kind of connect to the motivational piece as well, but there was a time where in between my high school and college career where I spent a lot of time, by myself, or, I could have been hanging out with my friends or running around in the streets, but that yearning for music, that joy of, finding the newest song, listening to this artist and what they put out and keeping track and all of that, it kept me from making some, bad decisions, or it kept me in the house because I had to, hey, I got to listen to this, I got to listen to that. So music actually kind of saved my life in a way, because when I felt like by myself, or when I felt like I was, lonely or anything like that, like I would turn on some music, and I actually developed a bunch of different playlists and things like that. And I would work on those things. A lot of them would be based upon my mood or how I was feeling, but it helped me when it came to coping with the fact that, I was out of school. It helped me cope with the fact that there were things out of my control where I felt stuck. And it helped me cope with the fact that I was in that position. So music really helped me. It kept me from, getting too low on myself, because I had something else to be excited about. It helped me because I had something where I could put productive time into it, but use it also as my own personal motivation. I'm listening to songs from people like Kid Cudi, people like Wiz Khalifa, people like Currency, Snoop Dogg, and all those people. And what helped me was I'm hearing them, and it's during a time where they might have talked about their struggles, or they talked about being on the grind. They talked about picking themselves up, and it helped spark that motivation in me. I'm like, you know what? I need to pick myself up. I remember there was a song that Wiz and Currency did, where I don't remember if it was at the beginning or at the end, but they cut from the actual song to talk about a time where they remember being together and they were broke by their standards. You know, they had some money put away to get studio time, but they went actually searching through the couch for money so that they could get, you know, food and some other stuff for when they went to the studio. And it was things like that that showed me, okay, these artists, when they are working, they don't always have it like that, but they got to pick themselves up to do what it is that they want to do and do the things that they're interested in. And so I'm going to use that to transition into the motivational piece. I want to talk about finding ways to get yourself unstuck. All right. So, as I said, we're going to talk about finding ways to get yourself unstuck. Well, first of all, it starts with awareness. You know, you got to understand your feelings. You got to understand what it is you're going through. And sometimes you got to address the fact that you feel stuck. I'll talk about a time I was feeling stuck. I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but there was a time where in between where I was in high school and college. This was actually 6 years. I spent 6 years being outside of the school system. The thing that was difficult for me was it was very difficult to actually do things productively, like find a job and things like that. At the time, I hadn't graduated high school yet. I didn't get my GED until maybe 3 or 4 years after leaving from high school. There were a whole bunch of different challenges in between that time, but there were certain things that I was doing, and nothing illegal or anything like that, but there were certain things that I was doing where I was working, doing things like internships and things like that kept me busy, and they kept me in the preparation mode, if you so to speak. And that helped me for when it came time to go to college. But I remember during that time, like, you know, I tried to do like homeschool. There was a program where they considered, you know, different experiences such as internships and stuff like that as like class and things like that. So, you know, I was trying to do the homeschool thing, and we hit some snags in the road. We hit some bumps in the road with that. And I just remember I had an overall feeling of feeling stuck, because it just felt like, okay, here it is. You know, I'm working, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that. And I don't feel like I'm getting any further in my life. Once again, I was really appreciative of actually having music, because music would help me kind of, even just by listening to music, it helped me kind of deal with those emotions and deal with those feelings. I remember I used to stay up late at night just because I couldn't sleep, because I felt uncomfortable about the fact that I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. Like, I didn't feel like I was doing anything productive with myself. I didn't feel like my efforts were paying off. And I definitely did get to a point where I felt like, you know, why am I even trying? Why am I even doing any of this? And I'm not seeing any results. The biggest thing I needed at the time was just guidance on what to do in terms of first steps to get out of the situation. As I said before, you know, I was working, and I was fortunate because I was able to establish good relationships with people, and they were willing to help me. I worked at a college close by. When I first started, I had started as just a summer intern. I was a summer high school intern, you know, working at the college. They were going to teach me some things. I'd get paid like a little bit, like a little stipend. But once I developed those relationships, I got to speaking with one of the professors, and actually at the time I was working under the department chair of the biology department, and he allowed me to continue working there throughout the school year. And at the same time, he also, you know, would teach me little things, and there was another professor who worked there, and he would teach me things as well. And so it helped me because now it felt like I'm a little bit closer to getting unstuck. I'm at least learning some things so that when I have my chance, I can skyrocket and I can show that, hey, I can do this and I can be successful. So after that first year, I was doing that and I was doing the homeschool piece, and we ran into some challenges, and it kind of set me back a little bit. It was nothing crazy, but like with the homeschool thing, I was putting together my work and my portfolio to send it off to this place so they could sign off on all my work. And in the middle of us about to send it off for the deadline, like my computer crashes and everything's gone. If you miss that deadline, you have to wait, a whole nother 6 months or a year before you can send your stuff back in. So that happened. I felt awful. It felt like one little thing and the rug gets pulled from up under you. So back to the drawing board, right? Then that very next year, I emailed the professor. He said, hey, I don't have anything available in my lab this time, but he set me up with somebody else in their lab. He explained the situation and all of that, talked to him, told him what was going on, and the guy interviewed me. I'll never forget this. He interviewed me and we're sitting and we're talking, and he was an older guy, very brilliant man. He had worked with some Nobel Peace Prize winners. He had met a whole bunch of them. He was held in high regard in the scientific community. And we were talking, he was interviewing me, and he mentioned his grandkids and where they were from. And they were from a different country. His son had went outside the country and fell in love and, had a family and things like that. And for some odd reason, I was like, why does this sound so familiar? So I'm sitting there and then I recognized his last name. So I just asked him, I said, is your son so-and-so? And he said, yeah, how'd you know that? I said, that man was my second grade teacher. I just say that to say, life has a funny way of putting you where you need to be. Now, I felt stuck. I felt like, what am I going to do? This and this and this. But I established a good relationship with somebody else, and he put me in position not knowing that nobody knew, including myself, that I actually had ties to this person who he was setting me up with. Once again, like, life just has a way of letting you know when you're in the right position. So I told this person, we finished the interview. He said, hey, it'd be great to have you on. I'm gonna talk to my son and bring up your name and all of that, and you start Monday. So I go in there on the start of the day, and he pulled me into his office and he said, I talked to my son about you, and he said you are very smart and you're a little whippersnapper. That's literally what he said. He said, so I expect some big things out of you. And I went on to work for him for about a year or two, and he allowed me to come and attend some of his classes. He put me in a program that was over the summer where we actually got paid, and we did things like poster presentations and things like that at the end of the program, which helped set me up because I was able to network with some other people. And I'm very appreciative of him for that. He helped set me up for my life. I say all that to say, don't discount yourself when you're feeling stuck. When you're feeling stuck, that's when you need to work a little bit harder, push a little bit harder, and make sure that you are establishing good relationships with people. You never know who can help you out, and you never know how they can help you out. You never know the impact that you have on someone, and you never know how that's going to play out later. Here it is. I met a man maybe 10, 15 years later after dealing with his son as my teacher. And now this person is back in my path and is able to help me even further. When I did get into school, his son became a college professor at the community college I went to before going to the 4 years of school. And he ended up not teaching at the campus I went to, so I couldn't take his class. But we still kept in touch and things like that. And he was able to give me some advice when it came to how to handle the course load and stuff like that. And you never know when something is going to play out for you. You never know how things are going to help you. So I just say this to say, don't get too discouraged. When you get stuck, try as hard as you can to keep moving forward. Establish good relationships with people. Even when you think, you may think you'll never see somebody ever again. And then the next thing you know, you're meeting their family member, and that family member has a way to help you out. Other ways of getting unstuck. Find you some good hobbies. Like I said, mine was music. When I listen to music, it helps me accomplish things. I can sit and I can focus. I can sit and I can hash out what I'm thinking. Like, it really helped me because it kept me from making silly mistakes and things like that. What are your interests? Chase your interests. Here it is. I wasn't in school, but I was still finding a way to chase my interests. I took an internship, but the internship was working in a lab. I've always been interested in science. I'm working in a lab. Even though I'm not in school, even though I'm feeling stuck, I'm still showing up. I'm still learning what I can and doing what I need to do. Work even if you're not going to get paid. When I started those positions, none of them were really paying. It wasn't until the people saw me consistently working and grinding that they were able to figure something out for me. But I wasn't even working to get paid at first. And to be quite honest with you, those kinds of opportunities, with the way things were going for me specifically, I really should have been paying them because they were teaching me things that I was going to use my entire college career. When I got to school, my first 2 years of college was pretty much everything I had already learned in the lab, and I had already done it. It cut down on things like the amount of time I needed to study. Now, I still had to put the study time in, and I still had to do the work, but there were so many things that I learned by working in the lab at that time where, okay, this is second nature for me. I've already done this. I can do this. I learned about it already. Try to find ways to follow your interests, even if that means you got to work without getting paid. Now, not all of us can do that. A lot of us have responsibilities we got to take care of and things of that nature. But when you work without the expectation of getting paid, it's still an investment into yourself. You're still doing something for yourself that's positive. You're still getting things done, and you're gaining knowledge that you may not otherwise get. Lastly, just seek guidance from other people. I didn't know which direction to go in until I met some of these people. The last guy who hired me, where I went to school and his son was my teacher, I told him my situation, and he talked to the college and actually had me working with one of their counselors there. I'd probably say for a couple of months, and the guy helped point me in the right direction on how to accomplish my goal of getting into a 4-year university. He said, "Look, it's gonna take a while." And at first, I really wasn't trying to hear it because I just wanted to be able to do it, and I didn't want to have to take a long time. But he told me, "Hey, you're gonna have to go and follow these steps. You're gonna have to go and get your GED. You're gonna have to probably start off at a community college, and then once you show that you have good grades, then you can move on to a 4-year university." I was trying to do it a whole different way. I was like, well, if I work at the university, can't I just, go there after working there for some time? And he said, yeah, but that doesn't fit your situation like that. So I had to follow a different route. And sometimes the path that you need to take is not always the path that you specifically choose. It's not always the path that you specifically find. And that's where my last 2 points are going to kind of come together. It's you have to seek help and get guidance from others, because others who are more experienced, others who are wiser than you, they're going to be able to point you in the right direction. And you have to come to terms with the fact that sometimes you got to take the long path. I had to take the long path. Getting my GED, it didn't take that long, but it took a minute. Then going to a community college for a year before transferring to a 4-year university. That's 6 years right there. Instead of simply going straight to the 4-year university where that's 4 years, I did 2 extra years. But you know what? It was all worth it because I crossed the finish line, and I crossed the finish line in excellent fashion. So I had to take the long road. I had to take the longer path, but I came out much further than I would if I was trying to do it my way. Doing it my way, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now trying to do it my way. I had to listen to someone else. In order to get unstuck, sometimes we're going to have to listen to the advice of other people, and we have to just take the long path. It's always going to be one foot in front of the other. It's just the fact that taking the long path requires you to be a little bit more consistent. It requires you to be more disciplined. It requires you to be more focused. But guess what? When you cross that finish line and when you accomplish those goals, you'll look at the long path like it was nothing, and you'll be willing to do it again. So that was it for today. I want to thank all my listeners. I appreciate all the feedback that I've been receiving from you guys. I want to thank all my subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. We're trying to build up everybody over here. Men, women, I want you all to elevate yourselves. I want you all to build each other up. I want you to build yourself up, and let's be excellent. Let's be great. I hope that reaches somebody. I hope today reached somebody. Sorry if I stumbled a little bit. I had an idea and I had notes, but I also knew that I had things that I wanted to share that might not be in my notes. So, I appreciate y'all for bearing with me, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.